Streams. Is that the right word? I think that's the right word. So today's chat is going to be about anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression, and for those who have both. You're stuck in this conundrum where maybe you're having these big anxiety moments where you're on the verge of a panic attack, and then you're also having these moments where you feel like you want to take a nap. Maybe you feel like you have to take a nap almost every day, and you're really confused on how to navigate these two extremes and how to have this life where there is more consistency. So, with consistency, the most problem that happens is people that experience anxiety and depression tend to not have a ton of consistency, and it may not be your fault. So I want to start with that. It may be that you have a life where just consistency is impossible. Now, if that's you, where you feel like life is just chaotic and you have no consistency, maybe you feel like you have no control over what's happening in your life, I would love to hear that, where life is just chaotic. And then I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't want you to get offended, but are you trying to bring consistency into your life? Now, you might say, well, I can try, but it just never goes well. Or maybe you're thinking, I can't because of the anxiety and because of the depression. I struggle to make consistency happen. And that is exactly what we're talking about today, because we want to gain control over the anxiety and the depression. So you're having the high and low. Let's first talk about what you are saying to yourself when you're having this. Maybe you're saying, I have anxiety. Maybe you're saying, I'm an anxious person. I'm a person that is controlled by anxiety. So I want you to think about, how do you think about your anxiety? Do you tell yourself, I can't do these things because I'll have anxiety? Or I'm in depression, and you're just allowing yourself to get consumed in it? So what tools are you already using? Do you have some tools that you're using, such as when you're in a depressed state, are you able to get the journal out? Maybe you're a nap person and you do utilize naps. And I want to tell you, first of all, there's nothing wrong with naps. There's a way to benefit from it more. And so I'm going to go ahead and throw this little tip out here, and we're going to talk about this more today, is you can do a yoga nidra or a hypnosis instead of the nap. So during that time, all you have to do is search one, put your headphones in, and lay down, and you're still going to get that relaxation. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. So if I forget it, just let me know. I'm sure I won't forget though. All right, so what it looks and feels like. Again, you're having these really highs of anxiety where you're struggling. You're struggling to get anything done because you're thinking about everything that has to be done. And it paralyzes you. And then you get caught up in these feelings, okay? And then the depression is when you have what other people might say is you being lazy or you complaining. It's low. It's a very low feeling, and you're having a hard time getting the motivation to do what needs to be done. And that's very hard, right? So you're so anxious all the time that you can't get everything done, and you're thinking about everything that needs to be done. And then you're so tired because you just had all of that anxiety that now you need to take a nap. And the whole day just went by and you didn't get anything done. All right. So first, we need to think about our relationship. When we have the anxiety or the depression, either one, when we have those moments, we first have to separate ourselves from it, okay? So instead of being caught up in the experience, we have to separate ourselves from it and watch it with awareness as the observer. And you're like, whoa, that's some like metaphysics stuff going on. And it is a little bit, but it's also very doable. It's very accomplishable. Okay. Now, this is where most of you all have probably heard meditation helps with anxiety. Meditation helps with depression. And as a meditation teacher, I know it sounds like I'm mocking it, and I am to a certain degree, because what happens is people tell you to meditate, but they don't tell you what type of meditation to do. How is that helpful? Did you know that there's hundreds of styles of meditation? There are meditation techniques, and just telling someone that has anxiety or depression to sit quietly with your thoughts or with your energy can feel, one, dangerous, two, feel impossible. Okay? So the meditation that I like to practice, and I teach this in my meditation course, is practicing that you're in a rushing river of thoughts. Maybe you're sinking in a river of thoughts. And we practice visually in our mind, pulling ourselves out of that river and sitting on the riverbank and watching the thoughts. That meditation alone is so incredibly helpful to allow yourself that during the day to pull yourself out of the river of thoughts and watch it, become the observer, become this person, this being, this energy that can observe it, because we're separating ourselves from it. And when we can separate ourselves from it, we can look at it and we can say, wow, that's interesting. Now, another thing that mindfulness meditation can teach us is how not to be a judgmental person towards ourselves. This happens, right? When you're having those high anxiety, you're beating yourself up because you're not doing anything. How there's all these things to do, and now you're not doing anything because you're having anxiety, and you're then beating yourself up and judging yourself, right? And it's only furthering the anxiety. And the same thing with the depression. You're putting yourself down even more. You're insulting yourself typically because you're telling yourself you're lazy, most likely, because you don't have the motivation, that you feel like there's something wrong with you. And we tend to use these words such as good and bad, which ignite our inner child, which can be helped through hypnosis or deep subconscious work. Okay? That's a lot, I know. Coming back to anxiety and depression. And as you can see, I'm doing this with my hands, and you probably have felt this too. I even use those words, highs and lows. When we're anxious, our energy inside of us feels like a million little parts, and they're just, and they're chaotic, and they're everywhere, and there's no rhyme or reason. There's no way to control it. It's like a toddler having a tantrum and destroying the house as a mom, right? Like, that relates to me. It's just chaotic parts moving all over. Now, it's not to say that high vibration, high frequency is a bad thing, because you can have a high vibration and be excited, right? And that feels better than anxiety, which feels like it's just moving everywhere and you can't contain it. Like you're trying to gather something and it's just slipping out everywhere. Versus depression is really low, deep, heavy feeling. And we use these words, and that vibration feels low. So what we're trying to do in order to gain control of these is to gain control of that vibration, of that energy. Okay. So when we're at a really high vibration, we typically feel it higher up in our body, in our head, and in our chest. Okay. So if we're at this high vibration and it's all in our head and it's all in our chest, then things that we need to do is to bring ourselves down. Ironic that that's what ends up happening, right? Our body takes over. And it's like, let's just take a nap. Let's take over and hijack him, and bring us down. A nap works, right? So your body is trying to help you by bringing you down. But then what happens is once we settle down, then it's hard to get the motivation back up because we just expended all of that energy. So then we're in this really, really low, and how do we bring ourselves back up? So let's talk about some tools that we can utilize. For one, if you're anxious and in the moment anxious or in the moment depressed, things that are not going to help is meditation right then and there. Meditation, in order for meditation to work, it needs to be practiced consistently when we're not having anxiety, when we're not having depression. Now, if we're in a constant state of one or the other, yes, we can work with meditation in a more therapeutic technique in order to help that. And we can develop tools to help in the moment. I'll come back to that. I could go down a whole 5-10 hour chat just on that. So, as a mind-body therapist, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that when you are having the anxiety and it's all in the upper, we need to do something physically to meet that energy where it's at. Meet the energy where it's at with anxiety. With anxiety, this is what we do. We meet the energy where it's at. And I'm repeating because this is how we learn, right? Repetition. So, one thing you can do is jump up and down. Go for a run, right? You have the energy, you have the anxiety, and you need to expend it in a healthy way. So our body's hijacking us for that nap to say, let's pull you down. Let's add some gravity to you. Let's do some grounding work. But what we can do is meet us where we're at. We want the mind-body connection. What's happening is with depression and with anxiety, the mind and the body is disconnected, okay? So this is where for people that tend to have anxiety, more exercise is going to be necessary. Now, when I say the word exercise, if you missed last Saturday's chat, we talked about your relationship with the word exercise. Everybody can practice exercise in different ways. Exercise does not mean running or weightlifting or doing something extremely difficult. Exercise is another word for practice, to exercise your ability. So let's think about that word and how we've added a new connotation to it. It really means to practice. And so maybe you're anxious and you're in the moment and you just want to scream, you just want to punch something. Good. Do some movements like that. Okay? Now let's go to the other extreme and the depression. The depression, those low vibrations where you don't feel like doing anything. This again is where it's extremely important to be practicing things when you're not at your lowest. So that when you're at your lowest, it has become a habit for us to step into. We also need to have our key things that we know we need to do. Now, for me, and I find this works for a lot of people, but everyone is different. We are all unique. The best thing to do is to start journaling. Start journaling about what you're feeling. And recognize it, honor it, bring attention to it. Our vibration is low, therefore we need to slowly pull ourselves out. And yanking ourselves out of it is not very pleasant. So, and obviously we don't have the energy to just go for a run. Now, if you do, fantastic. I would recommend just get the momentum going. Get the momentum going. The second thing that is really easy is to turn some music on. Turn some music on that has a little bit faster tempo. Try to get some movement. And this can be very gentle, restorative movements. Your body is in a low state because it needs to be there and it's asking you to take care of it. Again, if you just had this anxiety and then you just flopped, things that we can do is put the yoga nidra on, put the hypnosis on, get on the floor and just roll around and be sensual in your body. Your body is asking it. It's saying, I need you to be in me right now. I need you to feel. I need you to feel, and you're feeling a lot and it's heavy. So we're going to do some very gentle, like yoga therapy style movements, restorative movements. Put some music on, move around very gently and start to stir it up. So how I like to think about anxiety and depression is very much like those little, what are they? Those sparkle jars. Have you made those? The sparkle jars, or seen someone, or maybe you've seen it on Pinterest or something of the sort. So these sparkle jars, anxiety, you're shaking it up, right? It's all shaken up. The sparkles are going everywhere. And We need something to get us there with it so that we can then let it settle. And when you're in depression, they're all settled at the bottom, and we need to slowly shake and stir them up. Okay? Now, what we're hoping for in gaining control, this is how we start to, first, we're becoming separate from it. We're becoming separate from being the anxiety. We're becoming separate from being the depression, and we're observing it. And we're recognizing. And when we can recognize, I am not my anxiety, I am not my depression, that we can say, wow, look what I'm feeling right now. Like, this feels like it's all over the place. This feels low. These are the thoughts that are going through my mind. You are not your thoughts. These are the thoughts that are going through my mind. This is what I'm feeling. I'm recognizing it. I'm bringing attention to it. And by recognizing and bringing attention to it, we can meet it where it's at. Okay, we're meeting it where it's at. I like to think about this. If there's someone on the edge of the building and they're getting ready to jump, or on the edge of a bridge and they're getting ready to jump. Would we go up to them and be like, oh my gosh, you can't do this? And no, we're going to meet them where they're at. We're going to meet them at that energy, right? And so we want to be gentle with ourselves, meet ourselves where we're at. And then we want to alter it, right? And that's where, so we're meeting it where it's at, and we're starting to bring it into a normalcy, right? At a steady level. And then once we get it there, we want to maintain it. And this is where we can maintain by daily practice. Now, for some of us, we're going, I can't. My life's too crazy. My life's too chaotic. Let me just say, I am right there with you, okay? For one, it's been COVID. But I have 2 children, and they are not just your average children. They are very emotional children who are all over the spectrum at all times, and it causes a lot of stress here at home. However, what we can do is we can wake up earlier and notice, being the observer, we note that they are calmer in the morning. So if we're going to get our meditation in, we're going to get our meditation in the morning when they're calmer. Because we've been practicing being the observer, we can start to note when it would be more convenient for things to happen other than other times. Okay? So this is why it's so important to keep practice being the observer. Notice and write down, what is it, your hopes, your dreams, your desires? Is it that you want to meditate every day? Well, great. Make it your mission that week to be the observer and to find when the best time to do that is. Maybe you notice you're having a lot of anxiety and you do need to meet it where it's at. You've become the observer. You've become aware, and you're like, I obviously need to plan more exercise into my week. Great. Let's start to be the observer this week, and let's see where would be the easiest time. Now, most likely you're a people pleaser. You're an extreme person. You're like, you start out and you're like, I need to exercise. Great. I'm going to exercise every single day for an hour. Observe that. Observe that, right? I know, because I've been there. And notice what you can do. What is possible? What is possible and what is easy to maintain? It is not practical to jump in and say, I'm going to do an hour of exercise every day, especially when you're going from 0 to 100. That is going to cause you anxiety, okay? That is going to burn you out. Climbing the stairs, slowly stirring, not shocking your system, okay? So that would be, I think I could exercise for 10 minutes every day. And then ask yourself, if you are to imagine yourself exercising for 10 minutes every day, does that feel possible? Yes. Okay. Does that feel like you could do that for a long period of time without burning out? Yes. Okay. When is going to be the best time to do that? Great. What excuses, complaints, or obstacles could show up? Oh, snap. Write those down. Write them down. And then plan for them so that when that obstacle comes up, you already have the solution and you've thought of the solution. It's there. You know exactly what to do. You have a plan. Ah, yes. Okay. When you're depressed, the same thing. Start writing about it. But when you're depressed, it's much better to say, if a friend was in the same situation, what would I recommend to them? Because you are so low that you need to think about it from an outside perspective. Now, this is what I typically recommend, but I have to be very careful when I say this, because the majority of you that have the highs and lows of anxiety and depression are also people pleasers. People pleasers. If you're a people pleaser, let me know. Because when I say you need to get off of yourself and start making it about other people, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, but I already help people all the time and I don't help myself at all. And this is all about my self-care, and I need self-care, and I need a break, and I need rest, and I'm so tired of taking care of other people. That is not what I mean. Okay. I mean that when you really authentically start to try to encourage other people who are having the same problem as you, because you can meet them where they're at, you will find that the advice that you're giving them is really what you need. You're actually giving that advice to yourself. And so you need to listen. You need to recognize, what advice are you giving everyone else? Are you doing it? Because what tends to happen, that mind-body connection being disturbed, the biggest thing that does it is when we are talking one way and acting another, right? Our thoughts and actions, our values and actions are not lining up. This causes the biggest disturbance. The biggest disturbance happens with that. So if you are telling people, well, you're just anxious, you just need to be focused, you need to have a morning routine, ask yourself, are you doing that? Okay? And then also ask yourself, why? Like, really sit down with your journal and ask yourself why. If you're having anxiety, what are you anxious about? I'm trying to make everything happen. Is that possible? No, it is not. It is not possible to do everything. In fact, I will give you my words of wisdom. You can only have 3 top priorities for the day. 3 priorities for the day. Now, each priority might have 3 actions. And then you're going to go, how am I going to get that done? When am I going to get that done during the day? Visually time block those things out. And if you are like, there's not enough time, then get it off your schedule for the day. You're torturing yourself. You are torturing yourself if you were doing that. Okay? So we need to, 1, become the observer. Meet yourself where you're at. Change your energy, your vibration, and then we need to maintain it. Now, everyone always focuses on getting the vibration up, getting the energy changed, correcting the habits, fixing the problem, but what they forget is the maintenance phase. And this is, again, where we have these highs and lows. And it might not be the highs and lows of the day. It might be the highs and lows of the week. It might be the highs and lows of the year. Okay? Where we're like, I keep having these cycles where I do really, really well. And then I have these like crash and burn, like weeks, months. Okay? And it's typically because we got comfortable. We got comfortable and we stopped doing our maintaining actions. Because when we stop doing the maintaining actions, or we get too comfortable, our old habits, our old subconscious programming comes in and takes us back to where we were. Now, you might have heard me say this, old subconscious programming. So your subconscious programming, literally, you are programmed from the age of 0 to 7 for 90% of your subconscious programming. And this is done intentionally through the design of our brain and genetic makeup. It is during the age of 0 to 7, your mind is in a hypnotic state. This is to help you blend in with your tribe, to follow the rules, to survive. This is a survival mechanism that is instilled in us, and not even instilled, it is wired into us. Now, you can undo those, but most people don't. This is where meditation can, special types of meditation can, not all meditation does. Meditation work can, therapy can. But what I find most is hypnotherapy does the fastest way, and daily maintenance to keep rewiring, to reprogram. I like the word reprogramming for our mind and rewiring for our body, because we have to rewire our nervous system and we have to reprogram our mind for what we want it to. If you have not done that work, if you do not do that work, then you are relying on what everyone has taught and programmed you to do. And this is where we get those talks and those books and the philosophy on changing your family karma, rewriting your own story. This is done through the reprogramming and the rewiring for you to intentionally, and intentionally is a key word here, intentionally design the life you want by programming your mind and wiring your body to act in that way. Now, I can't cover everything in one day. We've already been here. I try to do this for about 30 minutes with you all. We have last week's talk. You can go back and revisit a relationship with exercise, the word exercise. And then today we're talking about those highs and lows of anxiety and depression. Now, to really, really do this work, to really get started, I have a 30-day meditation program. It's a 1-month program that you can take as long as you need, but it typically is a month. But you can continue to take as long as you need with it. I am there to help you, to guide you. It is a recorded course for you to learn what we were talking about today with becoming the observer, which is the very first step that will dramatically change your life. Now, if you're like, I don't know, I don't have the money right now to buy a meditation course. I get it. I understand. There is a free option. So this is the Studying the Yoga Sutras. It's a 7-day free course at FigLeaf.Yoga.com. And then you could, if you want, do the meditation course with me. Or maybe you just like to be here with me every Saturday around noon, where we have these in-depth chats. All right. You can also book a hypnotherapy session with me, or maybe you're like, I don't know what in the world I need. I just need to talk to you so that we can figure this out. You can go to IzzieNalley.com and we can get that process started as well. All right. So first is become the observer. Recognize the frequency that you're in, and let's change that vibration. We talked about the tools that we can do to do that. So we're changing that vibration, and then maintaining, because maintaining is where we really have to become our warrior. We have to become our warrior and fight every day, but not in the way that you're currently fighting. We're fighting every day to maintain our peace. Right now you're fighting, and you're just fighting this never-ending battle. So it's time to change something you're doing. And that can be through going and watching my free Yoga Sutra course. Maybe you'd like to learn how to meditate in a way that's actually going to help you out with the anxiety and depression. Or maybe you'd like to join me for a hypnotherapy session. And then maybe it's not me. Maybe you have a friend that does these things too. Go with them. I'm not saying that you have to go with me. I want you to have this knowledge so that you can change your life and really, like, even anxiety with exercise and gut health and nutrition. We can do a ton with that as well. And so if you're not currently even paying attention to your gut health, then if you need a product, I have a product I can share with you. I'm not going to share it on here, but if you want that, I'll send it to you. But your gut health is huge. All right, so we're wrapping it up. Just some extra little tidbits, ways that you can work with me if you need some help, some accountability, or someone to partner with. Join our free Facebook group so you can stay in contact. I like to reach out to people. You can feel free to message me. Let's have a little chat. I'm here. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am trying to help you But if you do need some products, I can hook you up with that too. All right. Mwah. Hey, baby.
Hey, babe. Are you finished?